This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Subscribe to the podcast Beyond Politics. They host some of the biggest names and smartest minds. Beyond Politics is from a former Democratic congressman who helped ignite Barack Obama's campaign and a former campaign manager and political columnist. They go beyond the usual chatter on politics, news, science, and books. It's politics and everything beyond. On Beyond Politics, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Broadcasting live on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, usually in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in Seattle, 1150 AM KKNW. It is the Matt McNeil Show on your Wednesday. Jeff McGillicuddy Stein is going to be joining us here a little bit later on. Also, Representative Rick Hansen, a state representative in Minnesota. He is at the DNC. We will chat with him today as well, coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Patrick, how are we today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing interesting. As you know, I was just on the air here, and you didn't hear it on AM 950, but in Chicago, the WCPT guys had me on with Joe Esposito's show. And I got to talk for the first time to Joe Walsh. This is the Republican who's dumped Trump. I mean, he very clearly will tell you that he supported Trump. He was a Tea Party guy in 2016, and he wants nothing to do with him. He thinks, very bluntly, thinks he's the end of the Republican Party as we know it, and implied very strongly there are some real discussions going on right now of launching a third party a la when the Republicans spun out of the Whigs. You heard, Patrick, you heard that. I mean, that sounded like breaking news to me, man.
Yeah, definitely breaking news. I wouldn't have thought about that at all.
Well, and I've talked about, I have talked to, in Minnesota, we have Michael Broadcorp, who used to work with the Minnesota Republican Party, still does do some stuff with the Republicans, but he's come on out. He's a Republican for Harris right now. And we've talked, I said, I do dream of the day that I can sit down with a Republican again, and without it becoming name-calling or insulting, have a discussion about transportation policy or education policy or something where it's not my way or the highway or something like that. So that, there used to be a case where, Republicans felt as if there shouldn't be as much money spent on certain programs, and so that money should be given back, and that the individual could make a decision about it. I am of the other side, that I think it's far more cost-effective and far more effective overall to have the government collect a little bit more in taxes and offer a lot of services that the public needs. And we could have those discussions, and that's generally what they called sausage making, is that you made some compromises, the other side made some compromises. I dream of the day we can get back to that. I don't know if we ever will. But I will say this, if you take a look at the potential there, I think there is a real potential, because, and I've said this very bluntly, and I just said this on the air with Joan, I said, it's not healthy for the Democratic Party, too, to just take everyone in, because you can't have a political party that appeals to both Bernie Sanders supporters and Colin Peterson supporters on the far right. You just can't. You just, Joe Manchin, and it's too wide of an umbrella at this point. And so for the health of the Democratic Party, I think for the health of the country, I think it would do us good to have the moderate Republicans say enough's enough and form their own party. At least then we wouldn't have this attempted squeeze by these extremists who are my way or the highway, you soy boy. Thanks, Senator. You understand the ludicrous nature of all this when you get to that. Hey, Senator, when you were calling me, kind of a commie the other day, do you understand anything about politics? I guess not. I guess that's the case. A big no for you. Patrick here. Let's talk about airline travel before we get into the things of the day. Airlines have gotten strict these days. You aren't allowed to physically threaten and intimidate crew members anymore. You aren't allowed to do any of the sex stuff. You aren't allowed to complain about the food, well, mainly because you don't get food on an airline flight anymore, or very little. And now apparently you aren't allowed to fly if you have a large head wound. In fact, one man found out it actually can get you arrested. Eugenio Ernesto Hernandez Garnier is now in custody after he refused to get off the plane when crew members decided he was leaking too much blood from his head. This, according to Miami's Local 10 News report. You know, my gosh, a head wound, but I got a flight I got to take. You know, who hasn't had that conundrum, huh? So at what point do you say to yourself, you know, maybe I shouldn't go to the plane. Maybe I should stop bleeding first. When Hernandez Garnier boarded his flight from Miami to Las Vegas, of course, is there any doubt? He had a bloody forehead and was wearing a dirty bandage. For some mysterious unknown reason, the crew didn't like that. They asked to clean himself up and replace the bandage, but he didn't have another bandage. And at that point, they reportedly began asking him to get off the plane because they were worried about him getting blood everywhere and because they were worried about his health. I was hoping the health thing would be the number one thing. I mean, the cleanup in aisle 1, which is every plane, yeah, I think you can deal with that. It's a, dude, you're bleeding from your noggin. Yeah. Instead of getting back on the plane, getting off the plane, though, Hernandez Garnier and his companion, Blanca Loyola, pushed back, saying if they could not fly, no one else could either. Good thinking. She, the partner, also claimed he had recently had surgery, and although the arrest report didn't specify what kind of surgery it was, the Independent claims it was a hair transplant. Okay, so the guy gets a hair transplant and he's bleeding. And, dude, you need to let that grow out before you go to Vegas. I mean, it's not. Remember those Play-Doh things where you put the guy in there? It was like the barber shop, and you squeezed it down, and the hair came out, and you could give him the little haircut. It's not like that, dude. It doesn't grow that fast. Crew members warned them that they'd be arrested if they didn't get off the plane. Spoiler alert, they didn't get off the plane. For the flight's passengers there, American Airlines ordered everyone else off the plane and delayed the flight. Loyola and Hernandez Garnier were taken to a nearby hospital to be evaluated before being transferred to a local jail. They've both been charged with trespassing after warning and resisting the officers without violence. But I'll tell you what, you know where they're going to love your new hair? Prison. They're going to be like, look how luxurious those locks are, my friend. Luxurious. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. So let's talk. Well, actually, I want to talk about something which seems to be a bit of breaking news, and it's not just kinda. This has nothing to do with the DNC. It has to do with the orange jackass. Apparently, Donald Trump contacted Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, there was a discussion. Apparently, they had a discussion a while back, which came to light, and people were like, wait a second here. You're not the president of the United States. Why are you calling the president of Israel for official business? That's one thing. Apparently, though, with this new current ceasefire in Gaza they're trying to negotiate, Trump may have called Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss a potential ceasefire deal with Hamas that President Joe Biden's administration is currently negotiating. Now experts are saying Trump may have committed a felony. Newsweek has reported that two anonymous U.S. sources who were briefed on the call confirmed to Axios that Trump spoke with Netanyahu. And according to the New Republic and the PBS, the former president reportedly urged Netanyahu to reject the current deal on the table. So this is, once again, not the president of the United States trying to insert himself into foreign policy and stop American foreign policy, which is illegal. That is called treason. That is called treason. The Israeli Prime Minister office has denied their reports. Of course they would. I mean, I think the last thing that Benjamin Netanyahu needs at this point, considering how many Americans are not happy with Israel at this point, which is a lot of people, with their heavy-handed response in Gaza, I think the last thing he needs is this sounding like he's negotiating with private citizens to undermine peace processes. He says he denied that Trump spoke with him, and the Trump campaign hasn't publicly commented on whether a call actually took place. A private citizen engaging in diplomatic conversations with foreign governments is a violation of the Logan Act in 1799. U.S. Code stipulates that violating the act is a felony punishable by fines and up to 3 years in prison. However, no one has been successfully prosecuted under the Logan Act in the past, and national security expert Steve Vladeck recently called the law unconstitutionally vague. Still, news of the reported call has prompted calls for an investigation. Democratic National Committee members David Atkins told Newsweek that if Trump indeed called Netanyahu, it would constitute a massive crime. Trump, a convicted felon, no longer in any role as an elected official, conspiring with Netanyahu to avoid peace because it might help his political opponent, is pretty close to treason. Logan Act, a crime. We still have laws, don't we? Anti-Trump Republicans group Lincoln Project also called for the former president to be investigated in the alleged call, tweeting, Donald Trump is undermining U.S. foreign policy to win an election. He's willing to burn down to get what he wants. There's absolutely no line he won't cross. Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who served in his role for less than a month before resigning, was prosecuted for similar allegations. Prior to Trump taking the oath of office, Flynn was found to have been in conversations with a Russian ambassador to the United States about sanctions imposed by former President Barack Obama outgoing administration in response to the Russian interference. So basically, even though Barack Obama was the president, Flynn was out there talking to the Russians as, just saying, hey, we're going to be the guys in charge, and you can't do that. Trump did pardon Flynn, by the way, for being a treasonous jackass. The Hamas-Israeli ceasefire negotiations are still ongoing. According to Axios, there's an estimated 115 hostages still in Hamas custody. The Gaza Health Ministry reports nearly 40,000 Palestinians have been killed since Israel began its war on Gaza following the Hamas attack. So, do I believe this? Oh, 100%. Okay, so if you talk to non-MAGA conservatives, the guys that used to be on the far right of the Republican Party who now are kind of almost like moderates in the party, the guys that were really hardcore conservative back in the 80s and early 90s, they all say that border bill that they had, that Lankford, the Oklahoma Republican guy, had negotiated was a sweetheart deal. 1 in a million, you're never going to get as much good from that as you were going to get. That was a sweetheart of a deal. Trump proudly said, yes, kill that bill, not because it was bad, but because he didn't want Joe Biden to have a victory on the border before the election. So, once again, here you have Biden negotiating a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza. And, yeah, of course, 100% I think Trump made that phone call. And shame on Benjamin Netanyahu for taking that phone call and not saying, dude, you're not president. Take a break, come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
My house, my house.
It is the Matt McNeil Show on Wednesday. Jeff Stein here in just a little over 10 minutes right now. Jeff is in Cambridge, Minnesota, wanted to chime in today. Hey, Jeff, how are you doing?
Oh, good. So Trump talking to Netanyahu, I firmly believe that's true, and it's in the tradition of Republican treason. So Nixon talked the North Vietnamese to put off peace talks so he could have an advantage in the election. And Reagan talked to the Iranians to put off releasing the hostages so he could have a win in the election.
Yep.
This is just standard operating practice for these guys.
Well, and Jeff, thank you very much. I appreciate the phone call. Here's the difference. I mean, and as they talked about, no one's been prosecuted under the Logan Act. Other presidents who have tried to do this were smart enough to not make the phone call. Hello, Benjamin, it's Donnie T. Calling you from my own personal cell phone in my bathroom upstairs. Hey, how you doing? He says, once again, this is an attempted coup by the stupidest human beings who have ever inhabited the planet. I did want to mention this other breaking news. Apparently, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, yesterday we talked about how Kennedy, as his running mate, has said, we don't want to hurt Trump, so we're in negotiations to try to maybe get ourselves a campaign spot with him in his administration. Which then they said, oh, we're not on one side or the other. Well, funny story. Kennedy will give a speech on Friday to talk about the status of his campaign. Coincidentally, Trump will be holding a rally the same exact day in Arizona. RFK previously offered to drop out of the race and endorse Trump in exchange for a cabinet position. I don't think is Kennedy dumb enough to think that that's going to help Trump too much? Especially if he says he wants to be health and human services. Think about that disaster. Think about that disaster. It's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has become the guy that when the plague hits and you say, do something about it, he'll argue, but you're going to put out all the people that collect the cadavers. Who's going to employ the people that are tasked with picking up the piles of dead bodies every day? Come on, Matt. It's a jobs bill. Yeah, that's Kennedy. I will say this before we start getting doom and gloom and feeling bad about things. You should take a look about some of the results that have happened here, because since Kamala Harris has taken over, I mean, the excitement and all this has been very substantial. Now, once again, I'm going to talk about polls. We should mention that including the polls regarding the Wisconsin constitutional amendments that happened on primary day a little more than a week ago. They were saying that they were going to be really tight races. They overwhelmingly got beaten by the Democratic vote. Polls today undercount Democratic vote totals by 5 to 15%. Whether or not that's just faulty polling or, frankly, the national media, who clearly seem to be on the attack mode on the Democrats this convention, writing headlines which are nonsensical at best, whether it's the news media basically putting their fingers on the scale to try to basically make it seem like, hey, Republicans, you can still spend money with us, or, hey, Republicans, we're really on your side, but we won't say it, outside of trying to help you. The reality is that the overwhelming amount of people, I think, are tired of Trump. Polls show Vice President Kamala Harris now leading former President Trump since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee, a reversal from Trump's lead over Joe Biden. Harris has a 3-point advantage over Trump in the Economist YouGov poll, registered voters taken on August 17th to 20th, released on Wednesday. So, if it's Kennedy Jr. has about 3%, other candidates earning a negligible share, roughly similar to Harris's 46-44 lead about a week earlier. Harris leads Trump 48-44 in the morning consult poll of registered voters released on Tuesday, up from 2 points on the edge there. The independents are picking Harris over Trump 42-38% as the vice president's approval rating ticks up to about 50%. The poll's margin of error is 1 point. Harris is leading Trump 49-45 among registered voters and 51-45 among likely voters by poll by ISPIS ABC News. CBS YouGov poll released on Sunday. Harris has a 3-point edge over Trump among likely voters. Harris leads 50-46 in the Emerson College poll of 1,000 likely voters. Just one major poll from last week has Trump in the lead by 1 point. Fox News. Yeah, okay. Sure. Some of the 48% of registered voters polled by Monmouth University in a survey released August 14th said they will definitely or probably vote for Harris in November, compared to 43 who said they would definitely or probably vote for Trump. Harris leads in several other surveys taken this month. Reuters' ISPIS poll released on August 8th found Harris leading 42-37. NPR PBS Marist poll released on August 6th show her leading 48-45. Trump leads Harris in 8 polls since President Joe Biden dropped out of the race, but most show Harris denting Trump's lead over Biden substantially. 1.5, that's the number of points Harris leads Trump by Real Clear Politics' latest polling average. 538, weighted average shows Harris with a 2.9-point lead. Monmouth University poll found Democratic enthusiasm has nearly doubled since Harris entrenched in the race, from 46 to 85. Now it's dwarfing Republican enthusiasm, which has been stagnant at 71%. You're wondering why guys like Joe Walsh and Michael Broadcorp are leaving, is because there's 15, 20% of the Republican Party that just does not like Trump. Harris leads Trump by 1 point overall in several battleground states likely to decide the election: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, and North Carolina, as well as Georgia. According to Cook Political Report survey released Wednesday, Harris leads Trump in 5 of the 7 states, is tied in Georgia, trailing Trump by 3 points in Nevada. Nevada's an interesting one. Here's another more interesting stat for you. Kamala Harris obliterated Republican Trump in July fundraising, with her presidential campaign raising more than $204 million, more than 4 times the opponent's haul for the same month. Once again, she wasn't even the nominee until late July. Trump's presidential campaign committee raised about $47.5 million during the July. Even by contemporary political standards, where general election presidential candidates are expected to raise tens of millions of dollars every month, Harris's total is extraordinarily large, fueled by a rush of interest and energy in her campaign following Joe Biden's withdrawal on July 21st. She got all that in 10 days. The flood of cash will give Harris more than ample firepower for the 2024 presidential election's final weeks, particularly in swing states such as Pennsylvania and Michigan. During July, Harris' campaign also spent significantly more than Trump's campaign, $80 million versus $24.3 million. And it seems like Trump's focus is really weird. I was looking at some of where they're placing ads, and the fact that they're running ads in Florida and Ohio tells you a lot about what's going on in those states. Harris' campaign also ended July with significant cash advantage, so that's good. You can feel great about what's going on in Chicago right now with the DNC. I mean, Little John, please, come on. That was brilliant. And there's definitely an excitement and enthusiasm that's on the left right now. Absolutely. But it's stuff like this, the national polls, the fundraising dollars. Yeah, the momentum, the big mo is going for Kamala Harris. Stein, when we come back.
Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff.
Jeff Stein's our national and presidential expert, noted author. You can find his books at your favorite bookstore, as well as totallyiowa.com. The Iowa Business Report, the Iowa Politics Report come to us from his flagship station, KXEL, Cedar Falls, Waterloo, where Jeff is joining us today. Hey, Jeff.
Matthew, good afternoon. What is new?
No, not much. Okay, so did you expect Little John to show up last night? And Little John, I said little. That will make me sound like I'm a 55-year-old. Little John, did you think that all of a sudden it's usually one of the more boring parts of the convention, and all of a sudden it was a party in Chicago? That was actually pretty enjoyable to watch.
You know, that was the talk just down the hall. Somebody said that they were just dipping into coverage, and then that happened. And it's like, well, I'm going to watch this. And then now we're trying to figure out the message of every song for every state and all that routine. Well, spice it up a little bit. After all, the official vote was already done online 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, have some fun with it. What the heck?
Do you think that freed them up because it really was more of a symbolic vote? Or I can't believe you're going back on this. That was gold, man.
No, it's kind of like, let's have some fun. Well, here's the thing. Would you have done it if Biden was the nominee?
That's an interesting thing, because obviously it's a different mindset in a different team. I would guess that wasn't on the agenda before.
Exactly.
And that someone very wisely said, hey, wait a minute here. We have an opportunity. Let's let it go. I mean, in Minnesota, the Minnesota team had Prince. You know, California had that was a pretty fun one. But I mean, still, nothing will beat Georgia and Lil Jon screeching throughout the entire United Center. That was pretty brilliant.
But this is the thing where, if you want to make, and again, not a criticism. You know, you look at the DNC logo. and it's replicating the old Biden logo, right, where the E looked like a waving flag. So, I mean, she's stuck with the old logo, right, and the whole thing. How do you make the convention about you? Well, how do you make it say next generation, new, something different? Because it would have been disingenuous, wouldn't it, if the oldest candidate in history had a DJ up there, playing the Wi-Fi stereo Victrola device. I mean, it wouldn't have worked, but this just made much more sense.
Well, and let's talk imaging. You and I have watched plenty of presidential campaigns. I saw a split screen of what the Republicans did, and traditional, dry, fairly stodgy, not very entertaining. You have that yesterday. You're a political party. You need to appeal to millennials and Generation Z. Like I said, I just don't see either party going back from something like this, because the stark difference between what the RNC was and the DNC, I can tell you right now, my kids were loving watching it last night. They're all Gen Z. It wasn't. I don't know of anyone that was excited about the roll call of states at the RNC. I mean, the DNC is doing a better job of messaging and looking like an appealing party. Frankly, that's just how they are just doing a much better job.
Well, when I was sitting at home at 11:25 Monday night, because I had to wait for the coverage that was way behind schedule to finish so I could put my radio station back to normal programming, I did not have a lot of words of praise for the DNC in its scheduling that night, and I'm sure James Taylor doesn't either.
Old man in Iowa furious.
Screaming at computer screen because there were no clouds in sight. Well, a couple of
James,
things.
by the way, you have a point about James Taylor. How do you bump James Taylor? I mean, come
on.
Because
it was already midnight.
Well, okay, there is at least one of those lieutenant governors. They could have just said, okay, James Taylor, you understand, right?
I mean, Debbie Wasserman Schultz got the boot, and another congresswoman whose name escapes me got the boot. And we'll have you come back another night. Apparently, if you were there for the sound check, though,
it sounded great. Yeah,
JT was on his game. The Republicans, and we talked about this at the time, they oriented the convention hall much differently. It looked much more like, in essence, a TV set. And I don't mean television set, I mean a stage. I noticed right away with the United Center, we're back to the old school, long kind of view of the delegates. So in other words, they went old school with how the delegates are listed or our position on the floor, but then they went new school with the roll call, right? Here's the thing. Especially for the Democrats this time because of the changing candidate. The goal, to me, of this convention is to solidify the base. Make sure that there are no issues. And by the way, I haven't seen any issues.
No.
Okay, so you don't have people saying, well, we don't like how this came down. They don't care. They are
very united. They're the United Center, but that was one of the big questions: is will the Democrats look like they're united? I haven't seen a bump in the road at this point.
No, and so the Republicans, from a stagecraft standpoint, you may not like the message, but it ran very nicely. I mean, even Democrats are saying we need to take a page out of this book. Okay, well, other than the timing, and somebody better get somebody a watch. They're blowing through the prime time, but that's okay because what the goal was. And I hear people say, well, this is how you reach out to independents. No, the convention is to solidify the base. Make sure that you go into Labor Day solid. You've got your 40%. And they've got their 40%. And the fight for the independents, the 20%, goes from here. But you can't get there until you take care of the base. And they're doing that so far very well, and I see nothing to suggest otherwise.
Well, and
the
convention,
where are the protests in the streets?
Well,
yes, there are a few,
but they're nowhere near. Yeah, exactly. It's not like 68. Yeah.
Well, no, and this idea of it was going to be like 60. I mean, it's so easy, right? It's like, oh, Chicago, it must be like 68. Shut up. But it's not the kind of protests that had been feared or expected by those putting on the convention.
And as a matter of fact, it looks like and I'll say it like this because it's a weird thing, but this is the world we live in. It's an Instagram convention. I mean, you're getting photos out there, and all of a sudden you create buzz. Little John going past me. That's great. You have here's Sean Astin in the Indiana delegation. It's Sam Weisgamgee from the Lord of the Rings. It's a really. You're creating Instagram moments. Let's go with the speeches last night. Predominantly, I want to talk about Michelle Obama because I did like this analogy. The same woman that resonated greatly with when they go low, we go high. She basically was, Breaking Bad. Say my name. There was a much different tone. And I want to ask you: do you think that speech changed with Kamala Harris, or do you think that these were the speeches they were planning on putting out anyway? And it kind of, bites a little harder now that Kamala Harris is the nominee, not Joe Biden.
Here's what I remember. I remember a lot of talk that Michelle Obama was not speaking. When Joe was the nominee, she wasn't on the list. Adding Michelle Obama after Kamala Harris became the nominee is how I understand this all went.
Okay.
So I think that just answered your question.
I thought she was. There was a lot of people that were saying she was going to be out there, but that does make a lot of sense. It does make some sense to come on out and feel like your message has to change now that we have 3 months. TikTok goes the clock.
And by the way, there's one other thing, and I have heard multiple people on the right must have gotten the talking points facts, because that's how they probably get it.
Yes,
but it's like, oh, the poor Joe, and he's relegated. This is my Republican talking points guy voice, Seattle. Just so you know, I'm starting to do voices since Matt does. Oh, you're pushing Joe off to Monday night, and then he leaves town, and how disrespectful. Okay, that's crap. And here's why. Yeah. Every time there's a retiring president, they come into the convention on Monday night.
Yep.
They have the valedictory, and they symbolically leave the building and hand off to whoever is next. It has happened time and time again, because when Matt McNeil is running for president, having been vice president, he doesn't want the old guy or gal hanging around.
Yeah.
You'll want your own convention. So the fact that Joe is on Monday night is in accordance with the norm. It is not, well, look at the disrespect. Can't they even give him a decent speaking spot? That was traditional. Now, should it have started as late as it did? No. But they also knew that the major networks were not going to cut away.
No. It was a good speech, and he had a good speech. It was set up well. Once again, you and I can make an argument that one or two speakers probably should have been other cut, but it was a good speech.
Well, here's the thing: it's the speech he was going to give in acceptance.
Probably with definitely for some changes, with a little drafting.
But basically, this is the speech he was going to give on Thursday night if he was the nominee, and he went hard. And since he went hard, some of the others don't have to. So, again, all of this stuff about look at the disrespect. Usually the networks, and there are two things on this. One is that I've seen them just cut off at 10 o'clock Central. Sorry, we told you we'd do an hour. Well, were you going to not have Obama? No.
Exactly.
They stayed. So, it's a calculated risk. But here's the other thing. I heard all this, hand-wringing about Joe didn't get to speak until the late movie was on. One of these analysts said, I'm not watching TV. I'm watching on my phone. Yeah. It doesn't matter that it's 11 o'clock in the East or whatever.
The 1970s television schedule does not matter. It just doesn't anymore, especially for anyone under the age of 40. It just doesn't, because that's the rectangles.
Does it mean that it's going to be in color now, too?
Oh, it might just be. Hey, where's that new kid from Brady Bunch? All right, so there you
really?
Go. Oliver.
Cousin Oliver?
There you go.
Cousin Oliver reference. I think your school pictures looked like Cousin Oliver.
Oh, they did, man. I looked like, oh, gosh, they were not good.
Oh, my.
So, speaking of trying to make hay. Yeah, they're trying to, because they haven't been able to get anything on walls yet. This is my favorite. This is, first of all, the fiscals on this guy are the most humble fiscals of any candidate I've ever seen in my life. But yet they're saying, why would the head of a major agricultural state in the country in the Midwest be meeting with the Chinese? Oh, I don't know. Soybeans, pigs, corn. Yeah, I know why he's meeting with the Chinese. The idea that they're going to try to make this into something, I mean, I guess your governor is now working with the Chinese. The Nebraska governor is. I mean, that's just not, this is the way we do business today. And if you're an ag state, you clearly, China's a pretty big account. I mean, I guarantee you a lot of people in Iowa are wondering when the governor's going to go over there and make sure the pork, products are being shipped over there correctly.
We don't have to. Because the former ambassador, who's from Iowa, was to lead a delegation. Yeah. Ambassador Branstad was to lead a delegation, and then he sent his son, who's the next generation. It's covered. I mean, the path from the Midwest to China is listed as a favorite on MapQuest. Yeah. It's used so often. Now, the rest of it, okay, fine, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, yes. Why would someone from an egg state go to China? Because it's seriously diabolical. Yes, that's what it is.
Stupid. It's such a. I mean, it tells me how little they have on the guy. And I know this is how you do it. You go out there and you throw things at the wall. But it almost is kind of like you do understand. I mean, okay, you need to have a viable relationship between the Midwestern states, the ag-producing states from Texas to Minnesota. You have to have that with China because they're the ones that are buying a lot of our product, and bless them. You want our product? It's the best in the world. It's just so misguided.
Feed their population. They do not have the resources to feed their population. They have to import. We make more, we produce more, even in a horrible drought year, than we can possibly consume on our own.
Yep.
So solve two problems at once. Now, is there a problem with the Chinese insisting on taking all of the secrets of patents and everything? Oh,
yeah, very much. Spy balloons floating over the Rockies. Yeah, problem here. But, but
to simply say that his name should be Comrade Walls because he has gone over the... Okay, whatever.
Let's take a break. When we come on back, I got to talk about the attempt at rebranding of Trump's campaign, and that's a hoot. Jeff Stein joining us. It is a Wednesday. We'll take a break. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. Overnights at 1150 a.m. KKNW in Seattle. And, of course, on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Jeff Stein joining us right now. Jeff, and by the way, speaking of protests, they protested Colbert last night. They protested like one of the early events on the Sunday. But, yeah, the Democrats were anticipating this, and they have – I'm not saying that there hasn't been. I know from the Minnesota delegation, which had a large amount of uncommitted, there was some discussions there, but they've really kind of dispelled any of these problems from really taking over and being a center stage issue.
Well, and they were talking about a lot of people potentially being hurt and injured, et cetera. It appears to me that if you're a Twins fan at a Padres game, you are more at risk. From what I understand, than in Chicago.
Well, actually, it's more like a Dodger. I think the Giants maybe the Giants games. They're a little tough for the.
Oh, I was just seeing a story that said fan left bloodied after brawl in stands at Padres Twins game.
Go to a Wild game, man. And the third period, they're all drunk on the upper deck, dude. Man, it's an MMA match up there sometimes.
Did you just say third period?
Third period of a Wild game.
What I'm reading Padres and Twins.
Well, but I'm saying, but you see, you wonder why Minnesota sports. I don't go to an NHL game, man. Go to Phillies. Go to a Philadelphia Flyers game. One quick thing about Walls.
Yes.
What's his message? What's his task for tonight as the new VP candidate?
He needs to come in and basically talk about why he would give up such a cool job for this. And so that's where it's highlighting Kamala Harris as a person. Because to all accounts, they clicked.
Oh, yeah.
And they seem to have some general affinity for one another when you see them together. He gets the opportunity to define her as a person, much like the second gentleman did last night. Mm-hmm. And then she gets the chance to identify herself as a person of stature tomorrow night.
Keep that fire burning that they have been able to create since she announced him as his VP. That's the key. All right, so here is the problem. I mean, and this is something Trump is clearly trying to bide his tongue, because it's clear that, whether it's Obama, whether it's Biden, they're trying to get underneath Trump's skin, and his handlers today must have been holding him back, trying to keep his phone away from him. He's trying to rebrand himself as, where do you get the idea I'm this negative guy? I'm always Mr. Sunshine. I don't know. I mean, of course, he had a soft run in 2012, 2016, 2020. He is Johnny Doom and Gloom. As a matter of fact, I think it was the Daily Show showed him his attacks on Biden and how they're the exact in 2020 and how they're the same exact attacks on Harris. Worst economy ever. We're all going to be at war. You're all going to lose your stuff. And this is who he is. This is his id. How does he change? I mean, I just don't see how he's going to rebrand himself as Johnny Positive Happy, because that's just not who Donald Trump is.
Positive Happy is a hyphenated surname, I believe, in this. Johnny Positive Happy. Well, notice Senator Clinton, Secretary Clinton the other night said, he makes fun of the candidates' laugh, etc. Where have we heard that before? I mean, in essence, she's pointing out that the attacks that he's using on Harris are the attacks that he used on her.
Yes.
And if you want to use the "are you better off now than you were 4 years ago" argument, then stick with that. But if you want to start making fun of people's names and everything else, you're missing your opportunity. This can be, Matt, an election based on issues and positions and stances. If the candidates will let it be that.
If it was someone besides Donald Trump, sure. But he went after a Medal of Honor. He downplayed. He not only did it once, he doubled down on it because he wanted so much to impress Sheldon Adelson's widow because he badmouthed her. I just watching Republicans saying, "What are you doing? Stop it!"
And that's the thing. I have heard more Republicans in the last month say, "What are you doing? Stop it," in a variety of little contexts. And I talked to you about this last week where they're saying, anybody know how to get a message to him? Doesn't matter. It won't matter. Well, you have his cell number. You could send him a text, but he's not going to listen. Well,
apparently Benjamin Netanyahu does. That story breaking today. I'm working with Benjamin Netanyahu to try to kill the peace deal. I think he's today, clearly I said last night as I was watching this, and I was watching, especially Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, they're clearly trying to get him to explode. And he's already said to apparently a number of people, he's very scared that Kamala Harris's numbers on her speech will be a lot higher than his.
The convention already is.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing lasted. Biden got to speak on both day one and day two of the convention. If that's what he's going to focus on, then there's not much you can do. Mm-hmm. If you focus on issues, you have a chance. Both sides. But if they don't, then we're just going to have this mess, and the independents are going to tune out, and you're going to have lower turnout than you would expect, and it's going to be affected by state ballot initiatives where there is excitement and a thrust to do something as opposed to this ticket.
Well, and he needs to, and I'm not trying to give him help, but reality is his best look is these in-the-field rallies outdoors. He's going back to this, I think, in North Carolina today. He's trying to do another.
He's doing one today,
yeah.
and somebody fainted, and he stepped away from the bulletproof glass to go over and help the person. Yes, that's an image that wins for him. But then he probably went back to the podium and called Matt McNeil a doo-doo head. I don't know.
Well, and that's the problem, is that he trying to keep that guy. It's hurting cats. It's hurting cats. Trying to keep him on message. And the thing that's just interesting is the Democrats seem to have finally figured out. You just make him a walking rage machine, present yourself as happiness, hope, and joy, and he really does not win out.
Well, there's another 4-year question. It's not just, are you better off now? Who do you want to look at and listen to for the next 4 years?
Yeah. And
angry guy or not?
Well, and it's interesting because, once again, with Biden, it was, we're in a crisis here. Who do you trust to be in charge? They picked Biden. This time around, it's like, do you really want angry man back in? And, yeah, it's not resonating. Jeff Stein, once again, you find his books over at your favorite bookstore. I'll post the Iowa Politics Report. Jeff, we'll talk to you in a few weeks, my friend. Take care. Hour 2 for Minneapolis, St. Paul. That's up next. Hour number 2 of the show here today. Matt and Patrick. And by the way, I want to thank Patrick here because not only have we been doing this show, we did some stuff with the Chicago station earlier, so we've been out here for a little bit. It's been an interesting day. It is kind of fun. Patrick, you and I talked a little bit about this during the break here, and I talked about it with Joan Esposito on WCPT down in Chicago, is that last night after that roll call of votes of states, this went from just being a political convention. This became an event. This became social media pictures. This became, why aren't I there? That sort of thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely would agree with that. So when Lil Jon came out last night, it totally turned the energy in the arena.
Correct me if I'm wrong. When Obama did the hand thing, the Trump hand accordion thing, and kind of made a comment about size, yeah, that was, I couldn't tell you how quickly I had about 100 tweets and social media messages in my inbox on Threads, especially Threads was going crazy last night with that image. It was pretty good. Let's talk a little bit with someone who is down there right now and representing Minnesota. Representative Rick Hansen is a friend of the show, and my God, everyone needs to get out and help him. Make sure we keep sending him back to St. Paul. 53B, South St. Paul, Newport, South St. Paul Park, Northern Inver Grove Heights, Southern Cottage Grove, and Gray Cloud Island. He is currently, though, in Chicago as part of the Minnesota delegation out there. He's kind enough to join us to give us a little bit of a laydown on how things are going and preview Governor Walz, his speech tonight. Hi, Representative. How are we, my friend?
I am great.
Were you down in the Minnesota delegation? John Randall, the Prince song with the two senators. Were you down in there last night?
I was actually up in the rafters. I'm on the Rules Committee that Governor Walz chaired, and so that badge gets me up a little higher in the altitudes at the arena. So, but the energy is just electric here. Everybody, I mean, packed to the gills. That people just keep coming in, and they're sitting on the stairs. Secret Service comes in, says you've got to move. 5 minutes later, more people come in, and everybody is just excited. You meet people from all over the country, and just this collective experience that we're having, whether you're right in front or whether you're in the top seat up in the rafters, everybody is excited and ready to work.
Now, is it a fair assessment what I said? I mean, because it did. Last night, I'm watching it on TV, and I just sort of said, okay, this isn't a political convention. And don't get me wrong, political conventions, especially if you're like a wonk like myself, they're a lot of fun. But this changed, and it became an event. Is that how it felt for you as you're sitting there watching things unfold last night?
Well, there's kind of, yes, and it's also this thing of like we are being part of history.
Yeah.
It's you know, that it's not just the excitement, but the responsibility of we're here. We almost have to come back home and spread this good news that we have, that we've experienced. My phone, like yours, was lighting up. People saying, "Bring me back a sign." So after it was over, I was going through the seats and picking up signs to bring back home, and picking up buttons, and just throughout the arena to help share this experience, because sharing that experience, I think, helps us win in November.
If you do have an extra one, I wouldn't mind one either. I know you're already probably over limit on your. Or did you take the train down, or you took a plane down?
I took the train, so
nice.
I've got plenty of room.
Nice.
I'll grab you some more tonight.
Thank you. That would be fantastic if you could. So far, I mean, okay. I mean, obviously, I want to let's talk a little bit about not the primetime stuff. How is the daytime stuff? Obviously, lots of meetings, lots of round tables, lots of discussions, lots of hey, let's get out the vote stuff. How has been the daytime events been for you?
Well, we start off in the morning at 7:30 sharp with a series of speakers. So this morning it was Secretary Buttigieg and then Secretary Holland. And Senator Warnock. I mean, it's just those morning breakfast meetings, are, and we get our credentials. Security is really important. So each morning we get a new badge to let us in. But when we're sitting there and you just have this very close access to these very important and powerful people who are just like us, representing us, it is really a way to start the morning. And you leave that meeting, and then at McCormick Place, there are a series of caucuses and trainings that are going on, and that happens during the day. Plus, there's other meetings that are going on through the day. And then, you come back. We had some struggles originally with the bus system. That's been worked out, so the arena's filling up right now. People kind of get on the bus about 3 o'clock at the hotel and ride in. And every ride you come in on, you meet new people. So I just talked to a legislator from South Dakota who's sitting next to me on the bus. There's somebody from Wisconsin that was in the line with me. It's just this community that's being built of shared experience. Everybody's smiling, everybody's happy, and everybody's going to bring that joy home.
Yeah. The first night, the Biden night. Talk a little bit about that. What resonated with you and your thoughts on the Biden speech as well?
I thought, I when I was a college student a long time ago, I supported Joe Biden for president back in 1987.
Yeah,
and it's a very poignant moment. And the work that he has done and the accomplishments, I think somebody said it best last night. He has been the most progressive and accomplished president since FDR in terms of getting an agenda passed that helps people. And so it's poignant, I guess is the best word. It's this, here's a great man who put the country before his ambition and stepped back and endorsed Kamala Harris for president. And there are these rare moments in history where we are living through this.
Yeah.
And for him to give that, the valedictory speech at this last convention as he's president, I mean, it just is, your heart kind of jumps in that. And leading up to that, all the speakers coming into last night where you see this tremendous energy of diversity in the roll call of states, every state bringing that, music to fit each state, energy from each state, a little bit of the character of each state coming together as a country. Yeah. And, I think Joe Biden has been a great president, and, his legacy is he has provided a foundation, a foundation for us to move on.
Well, and it's interesting because it's hard sometimes for us to see, as you said, we're living through this. But when you step back, how he's going to be perceived is he was the guy that came in after the incredibly incompetent guy before him during a pandemic, saved the country, got major legislation passed, and then, as you said, did the selfless act of he came in to save us from the horribleness that was Donald Trump, and then he handed the reins over to Kamala Harris. And I think that as you look at the history as it will play out, I honestly do feel as well that, he is going to shine so brightly as one of the presidents that we always need to remember because of what he did in that 1 4-year window in our country's history where he saved the country.
Well, in this issue of how we come together, empathy and sacrifice, I think, will beat selfishness any day.
Yep.
And that is the way to govern, is with empathy. Empathy for the folks we represent and how we can make our world and our country better. It laid, again, Monday started off right. Last night, that roll call of states, and then the Obamas, just amazing. And tonight we hear from our governor stepping on this world stage that I'm looking at right now. It's just going to be an amazing thing. The Teacher of the Year from 2019 is going to be doing the national anthem tonight. I don't know if you saw that. She was a South St. Paul teacher.
Hey!
Teacher of the Year. So Jess Davis is going to be singing the national anthem. We all have, we're all interconnected. I mean, there's so many times here where talking to somebody in another state, people are like, well, I got this connection with Minnesota, or do you know somebody? And it's putting these threads together that really build, it's just sewing all together when you come and have people from all over the country here with happiness and joy and working together. It's just an amazing experience, and I hope I'm able, when I'm talking to you, to kind of share that energy because I think we're going to need it. President Obama last night said it is going to be tough. They're going to throw everything, and the kitchen sink, not only at the ticket, but also all of us on the ballot. Yeah. That's what they do. They tear down. We have to make sure when we fight, we win.
Well, and a very different message than when Michelle Obama was saying, when they go low, we go high. It was, no, you don't understand. This is a very different, opposition than we've had in the past. And that, and I pointed out multiple times, Donald Trump got more votes in 2020 than he did in 2016. Everyone has to get on out. Every door has to get knocked. Every home has to be called. We need to make sure everyone gets to the polls. And that was that message. And I can't tell you how much I appreciated the Obamas coming on out there and making that very stark message, is that do not think this is over. We have 2 months to save this country. By God, let's go do it. And I thought that's how it came across, at least on the television.
Yep, clear message. Senator Duckworth from Illinois was just blunt and perfect as well. I mean, that was just, so we have to, sometimes as politicians, we get cut up in gobbledygook talk and, and jargon and all that, but this was such direct, clear language that will be helpful for helping make this message and making us win that election.
I get asked a lot, Representative, because trust me, my dance card's been full. I've been talking to radio stations across the country over the last few weeks about our governor, and people will ask me the question of, is this who he's always been? And he has. I mean, you go back to the image he took with those kids after he signed the free school lunch bill into law. I mean, that is just, he's this exuberant person that wants he wants to help people. He's got a bigger stage. He can allow and I think Kamala Harris has said, let your exuberance out. This Governor Walz is Governor Walz. This is who he has been. And I think it's just been great. I'm glad he's getting this national moment.
Well, I was in line to go through security, and there was a woman from Wisconsin, and she goes, how do you feel about losing your governor? And I said, well, we're sharing him with the country.
Yeah,
you're gonna see, and we are seeing, and that's why there's just a genuine response to his background, his story, his ability, his skills, his knowledge. People react to it, and again, you're probably hearing from people all over the country, friends and family and neighbors, of people you went to college with or people you met anywhere else, and they're like, can you tell me about him? And is what you see what you get? And the answer is yes. So it is great to be ambassadors for Governor Walz and for our state. Everybody, you meet people and they're like, where are you from? In Minnesota. And they smile and they go, oh my, I love your governor. So I think it's an asset to the ticket, and it's going to help us win in November.
And we should also mention Peggy Flanagan is a sensational. She's going to be a sensational governor too. I have zero doubt she will be my governor coming up here before too much longer. And I mean, we are blessed. I mean, and I'm going to say, and Representative, I know you're not a big fan of me doing this sort of thing, but we got guys like you. I mean, we have people who are out there. This is Minnesota politics. We're here to help people. We're not here to basically grind axes. We're here to basically make people's lives better. And we have a plethora of politicians right now on the DFL side in Minnesota. So, yeah, why not? Let's share a little bit of what we've got here.
And that's kind of what I'm doing while I'm here. You know, I'm handing out pollinator stickers to people when I meet them. So it's not quite vote. You know, there's plenty of buttons for voting for the ticket. I'm helping the bees out a little bit while I'm here too. So everybody is going to be helping out and working together. And we've got legislators, both House and Senate members here, and it's a team. And that's the other part. I did an interview yesterday with Polish radio, and it was. I just was standing in the hallway, and somebody came up and, you know, said, "We're from Polish radio. Would you like to talk to us?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I was talking about teamwork, and you know, from the electoral side, having Governor Walz on the ticket, I think, adds to our electoral success in the Minnesota House of Representatives, and I think even the congressional seats that we can strengthen our support in those congressional seats in Minnesota. But not only with the electoral side of winning, but governing. So having a team, I mean, just think of the federal money you could match on infrastructure, on tree planting, the initiatives. The states, you know, Brandeis has said the states are laboratories for democracy, and we have been a working lab for the last 2 years, making innovative policy that the governor can bring to the federal level. I mean, if I look just specifically on the environment, look at PFAS, the work we've done. Look at chronic wasting disease. You know, has that ever been talked about at the federal level? All of the pollinators, all of these things that we've worked on, you know, together, I think now can be kind of launched federally. And that's because the teamwork on a precinct by precinct level, working to win, and then working with governing to make sure that we do better things, good things for the people that we represent. And I just, it's such a hopeful, optimistic moment we are in. I hope it continues. And we know, like the Obama said, it's going to be work. So time to get working.
Well, and it's interesting because with my show now getting carried down in Chicago, I was down there a little earlier this year. And, you know, one of the things that's fun is that Chicago's got that Midwest practicality, which you cannot deny. And when you were out there and you were saying you're on Michigan Avenue handing out pollinator stuff, I'm going to say, you know, I'm going to bet you're getting pretty good. You're resonating because, you know, when I was there, I mean, that's the kind of stuff, you know, they get that stuff. And you know, it's the little things, but it's also the common sense, practical things. I got to imagine when you're out there talking about some of these issues that you're passionate about, that you're actually getting some pretty good response from the folks in Chicago.
Oh, it's great. Not only in Chicago, but meeting with like South Dakota delegation, Ohio, everybody on the bus, everybody I see meet, hand them a sticker, you know, with the Rusty Patch Bumblebee on it. And they're like, hey, I could do that in my state.
Yes.
I mean, a mayor or a city councilor in another state. Hey, I could do that in my city, you know, so sharing ideas, it's what our country used to do. And before this wave of selfishness came in 2016 at the highest level.
Yeah.
You know, as a state representative, if it can be a part of it and just part of helping spread the word and spread the ideas and also learning ideas from other states, it just keeps this evolution of our country moving forward. We've got to get this poison out of the system that has been there since 2016 in that golden elevator, bringing the former president into that political sphere. And we can do that all one at a time, little things, working together with our friends and our neighbors and our family to make this a better country.
When we purge the 34-time felon, that will be a good thing for our country. You're in Chicago. What's the best thing you've eaten in Chicago so far?
I've eaten a Vienna hot dog that was just awesome.
Yeah.
they've had those at the welcome party, and it had a pickle and some relish that I don't even know what it was, but it tasted good, and I enjoyed that. And I was at the House of Blues last night, listening to Boys to Men after the conference.
Nice.
So it's just amazing, these amazing moments that I've tried to be posting about, just so that people can share like what we're doing here.
Yeah, Giordano's. Go to the deep dish pizza over at Giordano's, and then also if you can make it out to Superdog, that's worth the trip too. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I've seen that. I've seen people posting that, so I got to make that happen. I got time. My train doesn't leave till 3:00 on Friday, so I got a little bit of exploring to do.
Do the onion chips. They're very good. They're very good. You'll enjoy those. All right. Representative Rick Hansen, first of all my best tonight. All my best to Governor Walz as well tomorrow night with the big finale. I hope you enjoy that. Travel safe. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate this long interview. It's been really great to get your perspective on the ground there in Chicago.
And I'll bring you back a sign.
I would really appreciate it. I would really appreciate it. I will touch base with you about when you're going to be out there, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Representative Rick Hansen, and once again, I'll take the moment. I'll tell you what, we'll take a break. I'll come back. I'll talk a little bit about helping out his campaign, because once again, I'm going to make him Democrat of the day today. He's a friend of the show, and he's a great guy. Representative Rick Hansen joining us from Chicago. We'll take a break, come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Could have been a little less strange that night. I was feeling down and my mood wasn't right.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Rick Hansen just shared an image of his card. He's got it's nice. He's got the new Minnesota flag on there. I like that. The back of it says, protecting water, planting trees, saving bees, votehansen.com, which I do want to say, I'm going to make him a Democrat of the day. I haven't done too much of this year, but I'm going to make him one, because he is, if you look at what he has been able to accomplish. He talked about chronic wasting disease, and I've had, about 7 or 8 shows where we've talked about that issue. I mean, we're talking about whether or not we're going to be able to have deer hunting seasons in Minnesota. Now, I don't hunt. I don't. But I know the people that do, how it's a tradition for them. I understand the amount of income that is generated through hunting season here in Minnesota. And chronic wasting disease is a real serious freaking problem. They've had states that have had to call off deer hunting seasons because of chronic wasting disease running so rampant. And we had the Republicans, when they were in charge, because one of those stooges had a brother that ran a deer farm, they refused to do anything at all to try to stop chronic wasting disease. Now that that clown is gone, basically we've been able to have some real work done to fight this problem. That's just one of the issues. His work on pollinators has been incredible. I mean, he's one of the first people that's actually taken that issue seriously. And dear Lord, people, if we lose the bees, we're in real big freaking trouble. We are absolutely in trouble. So votehansen.com. That's an E on that Hansen. Vote Hansen, VOTEHANSEN.com. This is a representative that makes our state better. Help your local Democrat, 100%. Help your local Democrat, volunteer, make a donation. But we need all hands on deck from this point forward. You need to be out in communities. You need to go out to those red districts. You need to be knocking on doors. You need to be writing checks. Because if we don't do this now, if we do not save this country now, there will not be a country to save. Rick Hansen is a good guy. He's a friend. Go over. And it's South St. Paul. It's a great town, man. Go over there. As a matter of fact, Northern Inner Grove, God, that's a great place now, too. So go over there. Have some fun in the district. Knock on some doors. Help out Rick Hansen in 53B. All right, let's take a break. Come on back. Some other topics when we do come back. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday. It is the Matt McNeil Show. Good to have you with us today. We'll have both the Stein and the Rick Hansen interviews up on the SoundCloud and the iTunes and all those good places. So make sure you podcast and share with everybody. My world domination's almost complete. All right. By the way, speaking of world domination, Donald Trump, Stein had mentioned something in his segment about he was at a speech and someone fainted in the crowd, and he quickly came out from behind his bulletproof screen and went out to make sure she was okay. There are a lot of people that are speculating that was a setup, this is their new attempt to look like he's caring and compassionate. It also is, as someone pointed out, this is also after yesterday a quote-unquote reporter clearly yelled a question which was a setup question to which he had a prepared answer for. So this seems to be the new Trump philosophy, is to have moments there where, I want to continue my speech, but now I have to save a puppy from a wood chipper. Oh, gosh, who put the puppy by the wood chipper? No one's going to save her? Oh, well, I'll run over there and make sure that, the puppy is safe now. There you go. Donald Trump, human compassion. That's what I am. Does it surprise anybody? I mean, seriously, does it surprise anybody that is what is going on there? Yeah. Not me, not in the least bit. Not in the least bit. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. It should be noted, I want to give the racket credit on this one. In 2016, just as things were turning really stupid in the United States, there was Pizzagate, a profoundly dumb conspiracy theory involving internet sleuths who decided that the Democratic Party was running a pedophilia ring out of a Washington, D.C. pizza shop in a basement. Now, and by the way, once again, what had happened is someone who actually really believed this was true walked into the pizza shop with a gun, fired some rounds into the ceilings, demanding they take him into the basement to save those kids, and they informed him the building did not have a basement. And like I said, I can only imagine what that guy's face must have looked like as all of a sudden the long rusted gears of his mind started to turn a little bit. And he was like, the police are here? Oh, I guess I look like a psychopath? Oh, well. And as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly from his plea deal, he admitted that, I had been bought into this thing. I did not realize it was fake, and I thought I was saving kids, and I really apologize. Nathan Hansen, an attorney running for judge in Minnesota's Judicial District 10, was right there believing it to be real. The GOP recommended candidate is a prolific tweeter, something you love in a judge, right? Yeah. But retired journalist David Brower did the Lord's work and screenshot of a few of his Pizzagate-era posts where Hansen is just teeming with excitement over the possibility of human trafficking. Basically not a shocking one. A quick pursuit of Hansen's retweets, reveals conspiracies aplenty, including voting conspiracies, Walsh conspiracies, Star and Tribune conspiracies, all kinds of other things they want to consider. Once again, for Republicans, being a judge no longer is a requirement. Being a competent person that understands Minnesota law, that is not something you need for a judge. I mean, this is the Royce White factor. You're not looking for someone who's competent at politics. You just want somebody that basically, and go back to what I talked about with Joan Esposito on WCPT. She made the point, she goes, these people are just, they're out after their perceived villains. And that's what these guys are. So, yeah. I also will say, and this is an update on a story I had last week, a 62-year-old man who allegedly torched several dumpsters on Lake Street for fun, according to the charges, is now back in custody. Now, I don't know if you remember this. James Thomas has no fixed address. He's a homeless guy, was arrested by Hennepin County Sheriff's deputies and jailed on Tuesday. He has been charged with setting 5 dumpster fires on July 22nd along West Lake Street in Minneapolis, including one that spread to a building with retail outlets and apartments. Thomas was jailed that same day, but was released 2 days later, after which a search warrant was issued for his arrest, or a warrant was issued for his arrest, but they issued it after he was released. He was charged on August 15th. Law enforcement caught up to Thomas, though the sheriff's office spokesman said when he went to HCMC seeking medical treatment for something, our deputies ran his ID, saw he had a warrant. Thomas remains jailed in lieu of $150,000 bail ahead of a court appearance on Wednesday, which is good. This guy, you probably do want to not let this guy go again. They got this is according to the criminal complaint. Firefighters responded to an address of 900 block of West Lake Street that included a business and 4 apartments. They saw a blaze. Origin was a dumpster in the back. The flames and smoke did significant damage to the building and a parked vehicle. 8 people who lived in the 4 units were asleep when the fire was set. They all got out safely, though. Good news, but their possessions were destroyed. The estimated damage was $200,000. Soon afterwards, another dumpster fire broke out on the same side of the lake at the Moxie Hotel in the 1100 block. Then came 3 more fires in dumpsters nearby. 2 hotel employees said they saw on security video a man wearing a towel on his head and carrying a grill lighter. Investigators saw him loitering nearby with the lighter and had him arrested. After his initial arrest, though, police said that the light trash cans on he said he lights them on fire for fun. Well, people were taking him to jail. He told the officer he threw a Molotov cocktail through a window because someone spit on his food. He added that he and his girlfriend were in the city goofing around and setting fires. Clearly, this is someone who has some mental health issues as well. Now, once again, I don't necessarily agree with just locking someone up with mental health issues, but arson, you lock people up for arson. And once again, I am 100% for this guy getting mental health assistance, but while he's in jail, hopefully, that's innocent until proven guilty. But if he is convicted, he's in jail and he can get his mental health services there, because you can't have people running around in regards to this while you can't just release him and hope that he doesn't start torching more and more things. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. I want to touch on 2 stories here that are not really related, but they are related. Now, the first story is one from Axios. A share of older adults who are eligible for SNAP benefits but not enrolled. Because, okay, so once again, SNAP benefits are basically, it's food stamps, but, there are a lot of people who are entitled to get help for this, but they are not enrolled in this. And once again, a major thing for me, and this crosses into my religious beliefs, the Gospel of Matthew, you take care of the sick, you shelter the homeless, you welcome in strangers from strange lands, you visit prisoners, and you basically go on out there and feed the hungry. That is a major tentpole teaching of Jesus. It was so important for Jesus, and once again, religious disclaimer, you do or don't do whatever it is you do or don't want to do. I'm a Christian. It was such a theme, feeding hungry people, that Jesus himself created a miracle with the fishes and the loaves and fed all the people. That is, he is telling us to feed people. So this is one of those things where if you're hungry, I want you to get food. There are services out there available to you. And whereas a lot of the country, and I think this is a sign of the South particularly, have a relatively high sign-up rate for older adults who are eligible for SNAP benefits. 70.2% of Americans 65 and older who qualify for SNAP benefits are not participating in the program. Now, in states like Texas and Alabama and Oklahoma, New Mexico, you have high percentage of people who are 65 and older participating in SNAP. But some states, including Minnesota, and Minnesota might be one of the worst, you have a lot of 65 and older people who are eligible for SNAP benefits, who are not taking advantage of the program. And as a matter of fact, you can go out, Yellow Medicine County, Minnesota, 85.5% of eligible people over the age of 65 that could get SNAP benefits, 85.5 do not get them. Chippewa County, 85.5. Pope County is 85.4%. Otter Tail County is 85.4%. Becker County, 87.6% of the people there. Beltrami County, you have 87.6. 87.6 in Lakes of the Woods County. It goes over the North Metro, too. Kanabec County, 85.8%. Pine County is 85.8%. You got to Morrison County, 87.5%. South of the Metro, in Faribault County, you have, 82.3%. Blue Earth County, 88.2%. These are elderly people who are entitled to SNAP benefits but are just not signed up for them. I want to make sure everyone's getting fed. And that is an important thing for me. And it's not just Minnesota. Iowa's got a lot of these counties, and I guess maybe it's this Midwest practicality. But for God's sakes, you have food assistance available to you. Take advantage of it. I don't want you to go hungry. For God's sakes, you've lived, if you're, the baby boomers, the greatest generation, the lost generation, if you're still around, if you're out there, you've earned these benefits. Take advantage of them. I bring this up in conjunction with another story, particularly one that affects the south part of the state. Southeastern Minnesota's largest food bank is stopping deliveries to some of the region's smallest food shelves, citing the need for more efficiency within resources as demand for food assistance continues to climb. So, we have a demand for people out there. Now, not just people 65 and older in this case, in this story, but we do have, for some groups, definitely assistance that's available. We need to make sure they get that help. Rochester-based Channel One Regional Food Bank says food shelf visits increased by nearly 40% year to year after the first half of 2024. The food bank now serves 33,000 households across a 14-county region, from Blue Earth, Minnesota to La Crosse, Wisconsin. We have to drive efficiency right now, said Virginia Witherspoon, Channel One's executive director. We are facing an insurmountable need, and we have to make sure that every time we go out in a truck that we are taking it to the highest need areas. Channel One said it will no longer serve 11 area programs, but declined to provide the list of food shelves it is ending deliveries to. The programs collectively serve about 300 total households a month. The organization said the changes also affect 225 students who use Channel One's backpack programs. All Seasons Community Services in Kenyon, Minnesota, says it has learned last month that Channel One would discontinue service to its shelf located about 45 minutes northwest of Rochester. The change took effect on August 16th. Mary Frutiger, the director of All Seasons, said, and the letter came as a blow for the food shelf, which now serves between 25 and 100 households a month from 5 towns, including Kenyon, Wanamingo, Nerstad. We're all going to band together. We're going to have to figure this out, Frutiger said, but we shouldn't have to be put in this situation on such short notice. Witherspoon said some of the programs no longer served by Channel One had an opportunity in 2022 to receive grant funding to increase choice and access to their food shelf, therefore serving more people in their region, but declined to participate in the program. Channel One, she added, also factored in proximity to other food shelves nearby when considering where to discontinue services. Channel One maintains more than 100 partnerships with area food shelves and programs. Many of the programs we discontinued partnership with, we expect to still continue to run. It just might make a sense for them to get their food from a different source. For All Seasons, it's uncertain what new food source may be. Frutiger said she's already tried another area food bank with no luck. Her next step is to contact other wholesalers and grocery chains about food availability while continuing outreach to local farms, churches, and community groups. For goodness sakes, All Seasons, this is obviously a need down there. This is in the Kenyon area. If you are down in that area, if you know someone down there, if you can make a donation down there, please do. And let's help them out. It's going to be tighter. It's going to be more difficult, but it's not impossible. The food shelf, open 3 days a week and run mostly by volunteers, has no plans to close. She said if it did, the nearest food shelf would be 20 minutes away. Frutiger said she is concerned with what kind of message that would send to clients in rural areas already. Small towns have seniors, veterans, single families, and children. Now, I want to make sure I mention this. First of all, we need to help these people out. We had, during the Republicans' smear campaign in this state, against free school breakfast and lunch for all kids. We had Republicans in these areas, in these communities we're talking about in this story, say there isn't any need for food in my area. They were lying. Hungry people are everywhere. Now, in the Republican ignorant moron world of MAGA, Draz, they like to think that the only people who are getting food aid are minorities in the city and they don't need it. They're just stealing my taxpayer dollars. The real crime is it is their neighbors. It is people in their community that he just doesn't, and all Republican MAGA people do not want to see. They don't want to see the need in these communities because it ruins their narrative. They can't end these programs unless it's all about minority people in the inner city, and so he can turn as many rural people against it. And sadly enough, yeah, some of the hungry will vote against or vote for people who vow to not give them food because it's more important for them to punish other people as opposed to help themselves. This is a crime. We can solve these problems, but we have to make sure our priorities are in check. I am of the Democratic mindset. Republicans, the mindset is, if one person out of 1,000 is cheating the system, I would rather have 1,000 people go hungry than help out one person who doesn't deserve it. Because they're jackasses. They're not Christians. They're horrible human beings. I am of the mindset of get them some damn food. We can figure out the problem after we get them a full belly. Because that is what my Christian faith has taught me is the right thing to do. You want to solve this problem, and this is a problem, whether it's people who are seniors who are eligible for food assistance and they're not getting it because the Republicans will badmouth them if they dare get food in their bellies, or it's food shelves that are overwhelmed because the Republican leadership they keep electing keeps insisting there aren't hungry people as people are starving in their own damn districts. You solve this problem, this basic problem of humanity, this basic test, which unfortunately we are failing because you keep voting for damn Republicans. You solve this problem by putting the Democrats back in charge. And they'll do their best to make sure that everybody gets some food. Thank you, Governor Walz, for showing us the way on that. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll round up the show when we come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday. AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. From the, wait a second, things like that don't happen in a small town file. Oh, yeah, they do. It's just once again, the feeling like that they're somehow better when actually, if you look at the rates per crime, small town America is far worse than major cities. This is sad. A teenager was charged Wednesday with a fatal stabbing of a fellow 17-year-old at a birthday party in a residential garage in western Minnesota where young people were drinking. Seth Paul, 17, was charged with juvenile petition in Traverse County District Court with 2 counts of second-degree murder, 1 count of first-degree manslaughter in connection to the death early Friday of Andre Kempeska of Browns Valley. Kempeska was taken by ambulance from an apartment building in the 300 block of Southwest 2nd Avenue to a hospital in nearby Sisseton, South Dakota, where the Browns Valley resident was declared dead. About 50 minutes later, the sheriff's office reported. The preliminary autopsy of the Midwest Medical Examiner's Office determined that the teenager died of a stab wound to the chest. Paul, also of Browns Valley, remains in custody of the county attorney's office, seeks to have his case moved to adult court. According to the juvenile petition, the sheriff's deputy learned soon after the stabbing that Kempeska had contacted his mother, asked her to pick him up from a 15-year-old boy's birthday party at the home of the 500 block of North 3rd Street where Paul lives. There were several people consuming alcoholic beverages in the detached garage, the petition read. The people who went to the party saw Kompeska and Paul arguing and then fighting until both fell. Paul's brother pulled Kompeska off Paul. Kompeska said he was driven back to his apartment along with 15-year-old. The 15-year-old saw a lot of blood on Kompeska's shirt and asked how that happened. Kompeska said he didn't know. Upon arriving at the apartment building, Kompeska got out of the vehicle and collapsed, but then regained his footing and made it inside. He sat down in a chair but soon fell to the floor where emergency responders found him back at home. Law enforcement ordered everyone to come out. Paul was the first to exit, and he had a knife clipped to his front pants pocket. A deputy told him to drop it, and he threw it in the short distance before it was seized as evidence. While the deputy escorted him to a squad car, he mentioned Kompeska said, "I used it." According to the petition, he later interviewed by law enforcement said he acted in self-defense. Well, it depends on if you started the fight, sir. Now, once again, you small-town people will probably the people of Browns Valley won't even hear about this story because that's not news, Matt. That's just, people have a disagreement. That's how they solve their problem. And that's just some kids having a few beers. What's the big deal? Funny story. If it's 17-year-olds in Minneapolis at a detached garage having beers, then all of a sudden is, what are those people thinking of? They knew what they were doing. They were looking for trouble. See, this is the problem I have. Underage drinking is illegal. They shouldn't be doing it. It's not some country way of life. It's underage kids having booze. And in this case, it led to a dead kid. And so, no, this stuff happens, and it happens all the time in rural Minnesota. You clowns just have convinced yourself that it doesn't. And I am here to point out, no, it does, and it needs to be addressed. And stop trying to make excuses for it. Native Roots Radio is up next. We are back tomorrow. Till then, see ya.